time to wake up. This is what you need. Entertaining and educating. It's Kenny Klein TV. Yeah, First Amendment. Gotta respect it. Come tune in to see how we keep an eye on police and government agencies. Yeah, all this misinformation, that's a problem we gotta solve. Give credit and praising those who do an amazing job. Tune in, please don't delay. Entertaining while we educate. This is what you need. Hey, Kenny Klein TV. Let's go.
What's going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a great day. If you're new, hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're all having a great day. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're coming back, welcome back. Today I'm joined here by Lavender Mexican and Arty's Corporate Fiction. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. So today we are coming together because we saw an article that I thought we wanted to discuss with Arty and get Arty's take on this. And the article is basically, it is that, as you can see by the title, Washington State Supreme Court says YouTubers are not media. And, you know, just at that title alone, you already think like, oh shit, this is really going to be auditor. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the article. Lavender, go ahead.
All right, guys. The Washington State Supreme Court rules that YouTubers are not a member of the news media and therefore do not qualify for press privileges. The ruling shows how existing legislation works against individual and independent journalists whose medium is online platforms. In the Green versus Pierce County case, the Washington Supreme Court ruled that the YouTuber is not a member of the news media. Green runs a news YouTube channel called Liberty's Champion, which has more than 18,000 subscribers. He submitted a public records request to Pierce County after he had a disagreement with a security guard employed by the county. The purpose of the request was to get more information about the county's security force. The county obliged to the request but did not submit all the records Green requested. He requested all the records, arguing that as a member of the news media, he was entitled to the information. The county still refused his request. So he sued the county at the district court, which ruled in his favor. The county appealed at the Supreme Court, which ruled against Green. The state's laws define news media as any newspaper, magazine, or other periodical, book publisher, news agency, wire service, radio or television station, or network, cable or satellite station or network, or audiovisual production company, or any entity that is in the regular business of news gathering and disseminating news or information to the public by any means, including but not limited to print, broadcast, photographic, mechanical, internet, or electronic distribution. From the definition, it is clear the statute has not been updated to keep up with the current times. While Green's channel fits the definition of news media, it is disqualified by the phrase entity, whose legal definition, according to the court, should be interpreted to fit the traditional news outlets included in the statutes. Unfortunately, the list only includes organizations, not individuals. Therefore, an online channel run by an individual does not satisfy the legal definition of news media. In the ruling, the court stated Liberty's Champion is not news media simply because it has a YouTube channel and regularly posts content. It added that there are no freedom of the press implications if there is no news media. According to Eric Goldman, a law professor at Santa Clara University's law school, the court's perception of news media is corporatist and takes an unduly narrow view of the press. In a post on his website, he continues to argue that in the modern era, the press should include unaffiliated individual journalists.
All right, we'll stop right there. So That's pretty much just the basic gist of the court. Now, to me having no legal, experience whatsoever, just at first glance, that looks like it really is like obviously it's a victory. It's like, hey, saying that, at least in this case, in instance in Washington state at least, that auditors aren't going to be able to just keep doing what they want to do and get public records requests to keep referring to themselves as press. Now, but to me, it also seems like it could easily just be like become a moot point at any time that they decide that they want to change the definition or of whatnot. Now, Artie has a little bit more legal, not a little bit, a lot more legal experience than I do. So, Artie, what do you think, sir?
Well, I would respond first to that last part of the article. The professor who wrote on the blog that the court was acting corporatist and taking such a narrow view. The court acknowledged in the decision, it acknowledged that the definition of news media under the statute is out of date. It recognized that social media has evolved and has become beyond what it was back in 2007 when the statute was first, when the definition of news media was first defined. It simply said that it is not the court's job to expand on a definition that is clearly unambiguous. And by unambiguous, it's saying that under the terms of the when looking at the definition of news media and under the principles of statutory construction, it is intended to mean organizations that is separate from an entity. Organizations that is separate from an individual. The court held that the owner of the YouTube channel cannot be one guy who owns and operates the channel itself. He has to be distinct from his channel. Therefore, that's where I see the court as making their definition. Again, they're not saying that in other words, what I'm saying is the court is not blind to the modern times. The court's simply saying it's up to the legislature to modernize the definition of news media. And I would say, to add to that, I think based on how the majority decided, I think it's fairly accurate based on how I would operate the statutory, the rules of construction for statutory interpretation. However, I would also say that this is a very limited victory in the sense of going against certain First Amendment auditors and frauditors who like to spout how much they are news media. This definition is only relegated when seeking information under Washington State's Public Records Access Public Records Act law. Because it has an exception to the exemption there, and it has the news media listed as somebody who can gain a little bit more information than the general public due to their status as news media. I have not seen this in other instances and other states' public records laws that I've seen. I haven't seen all of them, mind you, but I've seen more than a handful, and I have not seen this sort of exemption made for news media as to this kind of context. But again, this is only Washington State. It's only with regards to interpreting that statute, and it doesn't really it doesn't expand on Washington's interpretation of the First Amendment in terms of freedom of the press and public access in that sort of aspect. So yes, it's a victory, but it's needs to be looked at in a limited scope.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's this simply for Washington's sort of cases where it's not going to go anywhere. Like it's not going to affect Anselmo. It's not going to affect Fuggery or anyone like that. Anyone that's anywhere out, because as Artie was saying, this is specific to Washington. He hasn't seen any other cases where they need a definition for it. So now, have you seen any other states that grant extra privileges to the press, like they get more information than any others? Do you know of that?
I mean, I always find that seems to be like a common perception amongst auditors and amongst other people, but it may very well be that this is actually more common than not. But I personally have not seen it. The vast majority of my research into auditors and how they do things hasn't been within the context of public records access. It's always been access to public buildings, and being allowed to audio and video record in public buildings, which is a First Amendment, freedom of the press, and expression issues, and not specifically regarding public records access. So, because oftentimes you see in public auditors often come into police departments or clerks' offices under the guise of seeking, making a FOIA request or a public records request. In those, I haven't really seen a lot of those laws, those state laws, make exceptions which grant greater access to the media than it doesn't. Than to the versus general public. So I couldn't really tell you there.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a question for Arty. In Washington, how will this affect Poster 7?
It wouldn't really affect Poster 7. The reason being that because the Poster 7 is limited to the post office, which is a federal entity, so it's relegated under the federal government. In fact, Washington's public records law would only apply to state government. This is local, county, and state government.
Makes sense, yeah.
The public records law wouldn't even affect the post office. So they can't. An auditor can't go to a post office and make a records request under Washington's public records law. They'd have to get it under the FOIA, under the federal.
Well, if they're not,
law.
They're always pointing out they can record because they are news media, So I was just curious on if that would affect that at all.
No, because the definition of if they're going to try and make that argument, you'd have to look at the federal government's definition of news media and not Washington State.
I see. Okay.
So what about like some like state, like a police force or whatever, like because I mean when you look at some legal sense, like that definition of the definition of media is strictly about the public access, right? So is the state just a state's general definition of media different from what they define it under public records?
No. The court said that the public records law derived its definition of news media from the the News Media Shield Law, and what that is, it's a protection for news media and journalists from being compelled to give away their source. So that's where they're deriving the definition of news media. Let me see here. And so I'm trying to look at it real quick. I think that I apologize.
Worse.
Yeah, it could, because that goes under the rules of evidence, or at least Washington State's rules of evidence, and so that is where the definition of news media comes from, because protection from the compelled disclosure. So other state statutes may in fact point to this definition from elsewhere. But that's where it's coming from. It's not a definite. The definition of news media is not specifically within the public records law. They're deriving it from another part of the state statute, the state law.
Okay, so then basically the definition that they gave, if for some reason, so essentially under Washington State, YouTubers are not members of the media under the current definition of news media?
It's dependent upon the context,
Okay.
i.e., it's dependent upon whether the context in which somebody is making a claim or somebody's making a distinction of whether or not an auditor is a member of the news media. I.e., if somebody, for example, if say a major police department has press passes to be able to be part of a press pool for like press conferences, for example.
Okay.
Major news media event, we're calling a press conference, and they're gonna invite various news media outlets to be a part of the press conference at the big drug bust, whatever, what have you. They may point to and on who is eligible to obtain a press pass. They may point to this definition of news media, just as the public records law also points to that definition of news media. You see what I'm saying? I don't know that for sure, but that is a possibility.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, cool. All right, so like I said, we just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of this. We're going to plan on doing like a stream together on this some other time. We're going to try and get more information, maybe take a look at this guy's channel. Oh, the name of the channel again is, what was it again? It was Liberty Freedom. Liberty's want to check
Champion.
that out. And if you guys wanted to check out the Supreme Court, the actual like a piece of it, the arguments, he has it on his channel if you guys are interested in that. Lavender, do you have anything else? Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask Arty before we ended this?
The only thing I wanted to ask him was what extent would the auditors have to go to overcome this?
Well, like I said before going live, an example I made was that if, say, a group of auditors were to form their own organization, and were to run a YouTube channel under that organization's name, and then be able to upload content through there, and naming this as, hey, I'm a part of News Now, Media First, or whatever the hell. It may be possible that they could overcome this definition, because they are now it's the organization who runs the channel, and they are an agent of the organization. They are now legally distinct from the channel itself. That's a potential way of being able to get around the court's decision.
Now, all right, because Rogue Nation actually, he started something similar. He has like a bunch of auditors got together. I think he even did an LLC or something like that, and they're like starting to stream on Roku and all that. Now, that would work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect example of something that could get around this limitation.
Now, my question is, since you were talking about the agent, so let's say, I'm not sure if this is true, but let's say Rogue Nation is like he's the sole owner of it, all that. Now, could he be an agent, or would he no longer be able, would it not apply to him, just people he works under him, or would it apply to him too, as far to cover him under the media thing? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think it would affect him, even if he was to go out personally. Because as long as the entity is the one who's in control of the channel, and that he's able to effectively distinguish himself from the organization, then he could still be able to upload on his own, even if he's the owner of the organization itself.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so I guess we'll set up a date for a live stream. We'll look at Arty. We'll have Arty take a look at the schedule. I'll look at mine, and we'll try and get something together. We just want to bring this to you guys real quick. This just happened last week, and no auditors are talking about it. No one's talking about it. The guy in question hasn't posted a video in regards to this at all. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But it is what it is. We'll keep you guys abreast to anything that comes up on this as we come up with, and we'll come back with a more detailed broadcast on a live stream at a later date. Lavender, thank you for joining. It's been a whole lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Arty, thank you, sir. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Guys, all right, guys. You guys all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again. Peace.
Yep. Later.
Start out walking and learn to walk. We've only just begun.